And welcome to the Comic Corner. My name is Damon. I am your host, and what we do here is comic book news, reviews, and interviews. And I'm joined today by my good friend TJ out on the West Coast. Buddy, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. I'm doing great. We're actually getting rain here in the first time in like 20 years or something. I don't know.
That's good.
But yeah, I love it, dude. That's one thing I do miss about home is like a nice rainy day with like some good thunder. We don't got no thunder, but we got rain, so I'm a happy camper today. And Invincible came out, so it's a great day.
Great day indeed. And we're recording on Thursday. I know this comes out on Saturday with all this craziness going on between Invincible and Severance and the Spider-Man show. And then, like I said, today's Thursday, so you and me will both be seeing Cat 4 for the first time today. So by the time this episode comes out, you'll be able to hear our full reactions, or at least my full reactions to that movie right here on this channel and this podcast feed, wherever you are consuming this. Thank you. Let's talk about some comics that came out this week, because a big one dropped, and it was kind of funny because I know we always do like our what's on your poll list for next week, and this completely blew by me because it's just like the stuff that I have on my poll list consistently. One World Under Doom, the 8-month TJ, the 8-month long Marvel event is here. I read the first issue. You read the first issue of it. We will give our thoughts. Also, Big Boy Bruce, yes, Absolute Batman number 5 is back. We'll talk all about that story. And I have been reading Jed MacKay's X-Men. I know you've been enjoying Jed MacKay's X-Men. So have our expectations been met? But we are here all for the puns, all for the jokes, but we will talk all about X-Men. But first, I teased this for you. You may have seen this already. You may not have seen this already. I know you said you've been avoiding socials and stuff for spoilers for Cat 4, but have you seen this?
I actually have seen this. Okay. Before we started the show, Damon's like, "Have you seen the Spider-Man thing?" I had no idea, but I have seen this. I have, okay. And I don't know, man.
What are your thoughts for those who are listening to us? I am showing this image that Marvel has teased of quite literally, ladies and gentlemen, we are digging up the grave of Gwen Stacy.
I don't know, man. I honestly, like, if I'm being completely honest, this is like a very underwhelming answer, but I don't really have any thoughts on it, really. We've talked about this before. I haven't really been keeping up with the main 616 Spider-Man stuff in a while. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the hell's going on over there, man. Like, you know what?
This doesn't do anything for you. You're just so checked out of 616 Spider-Man that quite.
It's not that I'm checked out. It's just like again. I'm not even checked out. It's just like I have no idea what's going on. Like if you ask me, my Gwen Stacy 616, not like besides like the Spider Gwen and all that stuff, it's that she was thrown off the bridge by Norman Osborn. That's basically what I know. So like seeing her grave and her coming back, it's like, all right, I guess they're doing that crazy thing. I feel like that's always what it is with Spider-Man. Again, not being in the world, I just see things like this. I'm like, oh, I guess that's going on over there. Like, I don't know what that's about. He's dying 8 times. Okay, whatever. Like Gwen Stacy. All right.
It is unfortunate AF is not here for this, because I do know he is a very big fan, of course, of Gwen Stacy. He's really enjoying Stephanie Phillips' Spider-Gwen series. She's playing a part in that TVA book that you were not here for that conversation last week, but golly, that book is going on. And there's some theories about this image. So it's like, what is going on? Are we bringing back a zombie Gwen Stacy? I don't think so. I've seen some people speculate that we may be doing a Gwen clone saga, which at the very least is slightly better than just bringing her back to life. But if we are doing a Gwen clone saga, cool, throw her with Chasm and Hallows Eve and every other clone we've been cloning and all the clones. I am over clones.
Maybe she's a zombie.
I like the fact that like Earth 65 Gwen is kind of like messing around in the 616. I'd rather her stay in Earth 65, but at least like we have a Gwen already. Why are we bringing another Gwen back? regardless, there's a chance we don't even know if this is for the mainline Spider-Man book as well. We don't know what this is for other than we just have this image. So am I intrigued by any of this? On a scale from 1 to 10, I'll give it a 2.
Okay. That's
It's,
not terrible. It's not the worst score it could have got.
it is not the worst score,
Yeah,
but it's not great.
like I said, I don't know, man. So wait, so like this is the Gwen Stacy that was killed by Norman. Like, did she come
Yeah.
back or anything like in the book? I
It's,
again honestly don't know.
I mean, there's been kind of been like 2 rules with some Spider-Man characters that like Gwen Stacy stays dead and Uncle Ben
Okay.
stays dead. And you know, wait till Uncle Ben comes back, ladies and gentlemen. Who knows at this point? Golly. All right. Let's move on to some other things. Big Marvel event. As I mentioned, this is an 8-month long Marvel event. We are going to be cooking in this world for quite some time. This is One World Under Doom, written by Ryan North, artist R.B. Silva, colorist David Curiel, and letterer Travis Lanham. TJ, what'd you think about this first issue?
I really liked it. Excuse me. I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, Doom is just such a fun character. Like I feel like even if you don't really read Fantastic Four, most people love Doom, and like he's just such an interesting character. And hey, I mean, he's giving healthcare out. He's like, fixing basically everything. Like Doom don't seem too bad in this first couple pages of this issue, I gotta say. So I personally really like the angle that Ryan North is taking with this. And, it's a common question, not like criticism, I guess you could say, that does come up a lot in comic books, and specifically like with the Avengers. Like, yeah, they have Tony Stark has billions of dollars, but again, like, people don't have health care. Like there's a bunch of problems that they could be fixing besides like just punching aliens. So I really like that angle, but I do have to say, this is just my personal thing, I did feel like some of the character interactions were a little not weird, but just kind of like, I don't know, this didn't really give me anything. Like the Spidey with Human Torch, like it was fun, but it's like, yeah, and like, I don't know, just the dialogue between them, it just, I love Ryan North. I don't want to sound like I, dissing his writing or anything, but you can see his strengths in the Fantastic Four as opposed to like a big ensemble kind of book, I think.
And this is a big ensemble. We have an Avengers teaming up with a Fantastic Four, teaming up with Spider-Man, and of course, because it is Ryan North, we're gonna throw in Squirrel Girl in there as well. Why not at that point? Here's my thoughts on this. First of all, it's become our almost decade anniversary. We do this once a decade of Doom taking over the world. This is not the first time we've seen Doom do this, and at the very least, every time he does this, the whole point of it is he's pretty good at A, being a god, or B, being a leader. There's a reason why the Latvarians really like this guy. He's good at what he does. He's just a bad dude. And for those who don't know what's kind of going on in this whole book with this whole story, is that Doom became Sorcerer Supreme because Marvel has really just been giving it to Doctor Strange and had him die twice. First time Clea became Sorcerer Supreme and Doom was miffed. And the second time, Doom took it away from him naturally. So now he is Sorcerer Supreme, and he has essentially declared that the whole world is now the United Latvarian Nations. It just happens. What I don't love about this, outside of like, I too totally agree that the character interactions were just kind of like fine. A weird pet peeve of mine is when characters, when their public persona, start saying like Captain Marvel, whoever's like, "Hey, Iron Man," and it's like in a intimate setting, just call him Tony. Like that's, to me, it's that stuff. It feels unnatural.
Totally.
The weird irk. It does not ruin the book for me in that regard. That's just like a personal irk. The second thing is, we haven't mentioned any of this stuff yet, but I'm totally fine going to spoilers because this is coming out on a Saturday. Is Zemo plays a role in this, and he's going to be the one going into Latveria to be like, no, Hydra is not going to be dealing with this at all. We're going to push back. And essentially what Doom has been doing is killing these guys. He killed Red Skull and he kills Zemo. And his whole point on why the people of the world are starting to really fall for Doom is because he's doing the things that the Avengers, at the Fantastic Four, that all our heroes don't do, except Punisher. Punisher would do that, but they're doing all the things that these heroes won't do, which is essentially kill these villains. And it's very much like the whole Red Hood Batman angle. I've seen this play out before, not so much in this universe, but it's a concept, it's an idea that I've seen play out before. And I was like, okay, if we're going to go this was not the big hook for me to come in on this first issue at the very least. I thought we were going to play things a little differently. I think it's still an interesting angle, but for me, it's not like the hook that's grabbing me in this.
Hook, line, and sinker, bro. They got me hooked for sure. I mean, and the whole Baron Zemo thing. I mean, again, you got Doom killing Nazis. Like it's a great time, dude. I liked it, and I agree with what you're saying, like the Red Hood angle. But for me, the way it hit me was like it's not just about like, oh, I'm killed. Like the Avengers won't kill the villain, so I have to. It's like just the broader. It's not just about like killing them. It's about like finally solving the problem. Like he takes out Hydra completely, not just Zemo. Like he takes all of them out, and using that as a way to bring the public. What is the line they say? Like Doom is power, Doom is salvation, or whatever. Like it tied together really nicely for me, like the main Doom stuff. Again, the other character stuff didn't. I almost wish that the book was just those Doom parts. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
But yeah, moving forward though, I'm excited for it. 8 months is rough. And I say rough because it's only one issue a month. Like if we were getting a couple, then that would be great because it's like, hell yeah, let's go for a ride. But one a month's going to be tough. But then again, I guess the Ultimates is one a month too. So it's not like a crazy time gap.
All in all, for me, I'd still say that if this is the big 616 storyline, I'm still significantly more invested in Marvel's Ultimate storyline, which I'm very, very glad that is at least going on. So I have something from Marvel with these characters that I could still kind of like hook myself into. I'm still going to read. I know next week I'll bring it up later. Next week there is a Strange Academy, One World Under Doom kind of like storyline going on. I love Strange Academy. It has not been the same since Scotty Young left that book, but I will always give a new effort a try because maybe someone will really be able to crack the nut like Scotty was able to literally create it and do those stories. So One World Under Doom, I don't know if I will continue this main saga. I may, but I know you will, so at least we will still talk about it.
And speaking of the Strange Academy kids, we got to remember, and everyone listening and watching, if y'all kept up with that, they were the ones that helped Doom do the spell in Blood Hunt, which got him the title of Sorcerer Supreme. So they could play a very big role in the Avengers taking him down or getting that title of Sorcerer Supreme away from him. So I think that tie-in will probably be pretty important, actually.
Surprisingly so. All right, absolute big boy Bruce Batman, written by Scott Snyder, artist Nick Dragotta, colors Frank Martin, and letterer Clayton Cowles. This is Absolute Batman number 5. And this previous issue 4, I adored. I loved that issue. It was all about just young Bruce, and we get to see deeper into that tragic moment where his father was killed. But I've said with this book so far, I haven't really cared about the actual storyline kind of going on Black Mask. And in issue 3, they did something I genuinely didn't like, which is Black Mask offered like $200 million, like a boatload of money for Bruce, and Bruce accepted it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? The thing about Bruce I like is that he doesn't have the money in this universe, and he had to build everything himself. Like, where are we going with this? Issue 5 solves that answer. It fixes that. It fixes it. Like, this is why you keep reading things. Even if you don't like a decision that's made, you keep going because it's part of the storyline. He essentially, TJ, takes that money, puts it into a giant absolute Batman symbol in the middle of the city at that zoo, and burns it, and it becomes a giant bat, signal made of burning money. Beautifully
I told you,
symbolic.
dude. I told you when we first talked about this. You're like, "Oh, he's gonna take the money," but I was like, "Dude, come on. He's got a plan. Like, he's not gonna do it." I
I
told
bit
you,
that
man.
hook, line, and sinker, man. I bit it.
Yep.
I bit onto it like a
He
little stupid fish.
like Patrick on that episode of SpongeBob playing hooky.
But back to like the you know, I still don't really care for like the mainline stuff, but any line like with the story of this Batman, like I still care more about like the absolute Wonder Woman story and the absolute Superman story a little bit more than this. However, anytime it goes back to a young Bruce in those moments, I'm immediately back in, or seeing Bruce like be big boy Bruce. And in this point, he takes a beating. And the big reveal, I will not spoil the reveal, the twist at the end of this, that seems like it will be into the conclusion of this first arc, but it almost puts that same question into the hands of all of Gotham in a way. So I actually dug how this ended. This was my favorite issue of the week.
I unfortunately haven't read it yet, but you know how much I love Absolute Batman. And to your point about like the other Absolute titles, I agree with you, but I also feel like each title like knows what it is,
Yeah.
right? Like I feel like Absolute Batman, like while I agree with you with the storyline, to me it's like Absolute Batman is aware that we're coming to see big ass Batman, like, just taking thugs down, and you get like a interesting story underneath that. But again, like that's like what I really like about this Absolute line. They every single one feels very self-aware of what it's trying to achieve, and
Mhm.
for me each issue has delivered on that.
Let me ask you this question, and this may be a hard question because I know we don't like to compare and contrast, but
Mhm.
that's what we do here. Which are you enjoying more, the Ultimate line so far or the Absolute line? And I'll answer at least my end first.
Okay.
I'm still enjoying Ultimate more, and I think it's because I thought about this the other day. The Absolute line feels like chaotic evil, and the Ultimate line seems like organized evil, at
That's
least
a
in how
great
both
description.
both are assembled and both are portrayed. This
Hmm.
Gotham is just in shambles, and it doesn't even know, like, it's a directionless shambles, this Gotham, but it's intentional, right? When in the Ultimate Universe, everything's very planned, very
Hmm.
methodically planned by the maker, where in the Absolute Universe, it's just Darkseid's energy just letting the chaotic evilness of everything, the darkness of everything rise. So let me put it on to you. Which have you been enjoying more so far?
Well, first of all, I got to say that is a great analysis. Like I absolutely love that. That's I think spot on. Like if someone were to ask me the differences between the two, I would repeat exactly what you just said because that was great. But I gotta agree the ultimates, and I agree with a lot of your points, like the organization. I love a rabbit hole. I love a good theory. I love clues and stuff. And that's
Mhm.
what the ultimates is all about. Like there's so many threads and kind of mysteries going on that I absolutely love. But I will say, in my opinion, I feel like right now, at least, it's a little unfair to compare the two just because Ultimates has been going on for at
Year.
least a
Yeah.
year. Yeah,
Yep.
over a
You're
year
right.
now.
You are right.
So I feel like Absolute hasn't had enough runway to give it a proper comparison. So
Mhm.
I would say we should reconvene this in like a couple months and then like make a update our decisions then, because I think
Okay.
there's a lot, like you said, everything's really chaotic right now, and I feel like we don't really see the kind of game plan yet of this universe. Maybe you do, because again you have been more in tune to what's going on over there, but again I think we need a little bit more of that to really give a fair comparison to the two.
Okay. I think that's totally fair. That is totally fair. Let's move on to a book that,
Man.
yeah, I jokingly called the Bendis Run 2.0 to you not too long ago. This is X-Men number 11, written by Jed McKay, penciler Nato Diaz, inker Sean Parsons, colorist Fernando Cifuentes, and letter Clayton Cowles. Last issue was a measuring contest between Cyclops and the US government, not unlike what we've seen in the Bendis run between Cyclops and S.H.I.E.L.D. at that point, at least a government organization. This issue, we see the return of a longtime ex character. TJ, what'd you think about this one?
I thought it was fun. It wasn't like last issue. I was like hooting it. It was a hoot and holler issue. This one, I wouldn't say was a hoot and holler. It was fun. It's the start of a new arc. You know what I mean? Like the Scott showdown with the government really kind of put a bookend on that first arc, and so we're kind of starting a new little adventure. So I'm not really expecting anything crazy. We got Scott's dad hopping in
Corsair.
here.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't remember his name. Brain farting.
Christopher Summers.
Yeah,
Corsair.
Christopher Summers. And he's a fun character. He's always kind of goofy, so it was fun seeing him show up. And then the big kind of reveal, getting into spoilers, not really crazy spoiler, but the people that are after his dad, after him, are actually after Cyclops, and it's like a group of Skrulls and some other alien race. But then this was really fun, I thought, and a team I'm not like super familiar with, but we get a little reveal at the very end. Alpha Flight comes to save the day, and I don't remember the last time I've seen Alpha Flight.
They had a book out.
So
they had a book out not too long ago.
Okay, I would say I can't remember the last time, but I was like, oh hell yeah! Like I love a good deep cut, like a good surprise character or team. So that I really loved that, and it made me really excited for issue 12. If they didn't have that at the end, I think this issue would have been a little bit of a dull for me. But that picked it up. I was like, oh, okay, hell yeah, let's go.
I've mentioned before, I've been on a big Magik kick, and we will get into that shortly. But there's a nice little callback to the New Mutants, the original first run of the Krakoan arc, because the last time Magik and the New Mutants saw Corsair straight up stranded them in the middle of space. And there's a great interaction between Illyana and Mr. Summers that very much deserved, in my opinion. But yeah, no, absolutely. Going off of like that amazing last issue, this issue was just kind of like, oh, okay. I was kind of hoping we'd be continuing that storyline of the mutants and the US government and like, the headbutting here. But instead we're kind of getting to like some Shi'ar space stuff, and that's never been my
side
thing.
quest.
Never really been my thing. But as you mentioned, the nice little inclusion of the Alpha Flight, because where they landed and ended up, they're in the Yukon territory, they're on Canadian soil, so Alpha Flight has to make sure that things aren't getting too crazy. So a fine issue. It wasn't bad, it wasn't top class, but a fine issue to start a new arc, as you mentioned.
Agreed.
Cool. So let's talk about a book or a character that I previously mentioned. Now, what's the funniest thing about this? I think I had a solo episode that day when Magik #1 came out, and I said in here, I was like, I actually haven't read too much of Illyana Rasputin. I haven't read too much on Magik. So it made me want to after that. And also the fact that I play her in Marvel Rivals really elevated that. TJ, since then, I've read pretty much every major appearance of Magik.
I love it.
Since I went a little berserk. So we are now on Magik #2. This is written by Ashley Allen, artist German Peralta, colorist Arthur Hesley, and letterer Ariana Mayer. I really enjoyed the first issue after I reread it, after rereading all of Ilyana's like whole history, and I've been highly anticipating this issue. I think the downfalls of this issue is the inner monologue that is very base, quite literally explaining what you're seeing, explaining some pretty surface level things going through her mind. Didn't really add much to it. And also, I don't personally care for this new apprenticey type of magic demonology child she's kind of like bringing around with her all over the world. However, the art in here from German Peralta, is very, very, very well done. And I really dug that. It also really escalated this whole story. So this whole point is she's going around trying to figure out what's going on with these demons as these uh, locked spells are starting to get undone so demons can infiltrate Earth. Been done before many times throughout her history, but this is just a different main demon trying to do this. By the end of the second issue, she's brought into this guy's realm and becomes face to face with him already. It's usually something you expect in like issue 4 or 5 if it's like a 6 issue run type of thing. We're issue 2, very end of it. We're already there. So I was like, okay, we're full throttle pedal to the metal here. So really interesting and how that's done. I think the voice that Ashley gives Ileana is pretty good, at least in conversations she has. Again, the inner monologue is just fine and pretty surface level. Outside of that, though, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Magik's a character I know zero about. I know her from this book, her little involvement in the Ultimates. I mean, it's a character I'm aware of. I just know nothing about. So I am personally really excited to dive into this. I have the first issue, and I have the second issue on my pull list. Just didn't pick up the books, but yeah, it's one that I'm excited to learn more about, and especially like you were saying, while I'm probably not going to do a complete history deep dive, I will eventually, just not right now.
I can help you with that.
Yeah, I would say you can get the list together for me. But I have really enjoyed her in the X-Men, but in Jed McKay's X-Men, and like her interactions with oh my god, it's I didn't sleep much last night. Juggernaut. Her interactions with Juggernaut, I love so much. So she's the out of the other kind of solos, Psylocke and all that. I'm really excited to check this one out.
She has one of the most fascinating comic histories I've ever gone back to reread. It's wild. Obviously, it's Claremont's New Mutants, Claremont's X-Men. You're gonna get bananas, you're gonna get crazy, and she plays a pretty major role in Inferno, obviously. So once you dabble into like the inferno-ness of it all, it just gets mad weird and mad ridiculous. Died, came back, see her again as a little child, thrown into it. Wild stuff with this character. So I really enjoy her character. I'm gonna keep picking up this book. This is the first time she's ever had a proper solo ongoing, and she deserves it because she's a cool character, and a lot of people clearly enjoy this character because this issue back to back times has sold out at my comic shop. Wow. Issue 1 sold out completely, and issue 2 sold out completely. Issue 2 sold out completely day 1.
Yo, Marvel Rivals is
absolutely
doing great things for the comic community.
Absolutely. So I hope people are enjoying this run, enjoying this book, and hopefully they start putting out some collections of hers too, because she really doesn't have any of like the Marvel collections, because her history is all over the place and really fun, really cool. Okie dokie. Our last book, sir. The Immortal Thor. Let's hear about it.
You want to talk about history, man? This is a history book for you. So this, obviously, like I go by like Fat Thor. Thor is my guy. Like that's my character. So I selfishly love this book, obviously, but I do want to bring up a couple points though that I do have some criticisms for it.
Okay.
My first thing I want to say, Al Ewing is an amazing writer. He is, one of the best, especially when we talk about kind of big brain, kind of out there concepts. But I think that Immortal Thor has kind of been suffering some of the similar problems that his Venom run suffered, in which the beginning of, like, we're on issue 20 now. And it still feels like we're kind of like unveiling, like, get it, you know what I mean? Al does slow burns. And like that's what he does. And this has been a little bit of a slow burn. But again, like I'm massively a Thor fan, so I'm fine with it, but I can see why a more casual reader may have like dropped off on this or kind of got tired of it. And then the second point I want to bring up, which again, I personally love about it, but I think it's something that could turn people off, is it is very, very lore heavy. And I'm talking both comic Thor and actual like Norse mythology and like actual like, you know, mythological stories and stuff. And again, being a super nerd of that stuff, I love that. But I could totally see someone who maybe doesn't know every single issue of Thor and every era of Thor and just being confused. Like he does a good job explaining it, but again, for me, I'm like, oh yeah, that's from, you know, Walt Simonson's run. That's from Dan Jurgens' run. But your casual person doesn't know that. So that's kind of my criticisms of it. Again, we're on issue 20, so I feel like it should be a little bit more clear by now where we're going. But putting all that aside, again, I'm a Thor guy, so I really enjoyed this issue. We do kind of take a big step forward in this kind of overarching plot. With people who are reading the run will know what I'm talking about, but with the Utgard gods and Tyrannos comes back, so we're getting further into the story. It's just like I said, reading it as a Thor fan, it kind of makes me worried that it's not accessible to like most people. And it's like I don't know, I'm sure you feel the same way as Hawkeye. It's like when you have a book of a character you really like, you want it to be as universally understandable as possible, so the more people are reading it and like exposed to what you really enjoy about the character. So yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
very
yeah,
kind of seesaw on the book right now.
especially when you have a character like Thor who not only has his Marvel Comics history, but his actual like lore Norse
Yes.
mythology
Dude,
history as well.
I've researched a lot of actual Norse mythology. I have read,
Mhm.
I think, every single era of Thor, Simonson, Jurgens, Cates, Straczynski, and there's stuff that I even have to like look up when I'm reading this. Like I'm like, wait, the name sounds familiar. And it's like some random god, like part of the pantheon that's like mentioned twice. So again, like I love it because I love rabbit holes. I love that stuff, but I could see just your average reader, it might be too much for them.
Obviously, as well. I mean, when you have 20 issues, that is nearly 2 years worth of monthly asks as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that it is a lot, but I'm glad you're still enjoying it. I'm glad
Yeah.
for the hardcore, seemingly hardcore Thor fans seem to also be enjoying it as well,
Mm-hmm.
even if the burn is on a 1 out of
Honest,
10 on the
yeah.
stove
We're going 2 miles an
rainbow.
hour right now. But I also say and like admit to like that's also again Al's style. Again, relating it to Venom, like the beginning of Venom was very slow, and a lot of people were like, oh, dropping it off. But it picked up and it like Al, it's going to pick up. I know it will. And again, that's kind of Al's style, is slowly burning into it before really punching the gas. But it's been a little slow. It's been a little slow to get here.
Hopefully, Marvel gives him the chance to continue this burn, get it to a simmer, and then hopefully at some point a full on boil. All right, next week's polls, as I mentioned, Doom Academy #1. I love Strange Academy. I love Scotty Young's Strange Academy. And the Blood Hunt run of Strange Academy is probably the best Strange Academy we had since Scotty Young's run. Although it wasn't amazing, it was still very important from Blood Hunt to get to us to this One World Under Doom. So I highly suggest to pick this up if you are really trying to follow a lot of this whole Doom saga. As I mentioned, I think it was like 8 or 9 issues as Doom saga, so it came down to like 8 months. It's crazy. So outside of that, in the Marvel Universe, as I mentioned, the Ultimate Universe from Marvel, I have been enjoying the most. We have the second issue of Ultimate Wolverine coming out next week, and also Ultimate Black Panther #13, the start of a brand new arc, seemingly getting more mystical as we go along with the introduction of the Ultimate Sorcerer Supreme. And on the DC side, yes, Nightwing is my favorite DC character, and thus I will be picking up Nightwing 123 from Dan Waters and Dexter Soy, a book I've really been enjoying, and a turn on the character from a run with Tom Taylor that I adored. But this tone change is not desperately, this tone change was needed and appreciated. TJ, what do you have for next week?
I actually have a pretty fat stack next week, so I'm both
Ooh.
excited and scared. But First off, I have Alien vs Avengers number 3, which this book is so frustrating, man. Like I was so excited for this book when it was announced. We talked about it on the show here, but dude, it's so long. Like it's been like 3 months since I have no idea what happened in issue 2. Like I'm gonna have to go. Like that's just to me very frustrating. Like that's not a comment on the story itself. Like that's just very frustrating to me. And I also say like with what we do like we read so many books each week. So when you have a book that like has such a long wait, it's almost impossible. Like I've read like hundreds of comics since the last one came out. I don't remember what happened. So that's frustrating. Daredevil 18, which I'm a little behind on, but that's another run that I've been very seesaw on.
I'm starting to get back into that because I have Marvel Limited again for the year,
Mhm.
and there's some runs where I'm like, okay, I promised myself I'd get back to this after this first issue. I read the second issue, and I'm like, I like where it's going, but we're on 18 now, so we'll see how by the time next week, I'll see how I feel about this run so far.
Well, and that's the thing is like sometimes I love it, and then other times I'm like, yeah, that was okay, you know. So I'm sticking with it, but again, very seesaw. Incredible Hulk number 22, not seesaw at all. I love that book. One of my I've said plenty of times here, I think it's the best book Marvel's putting out right now. NYX number 8, another one of my favorites. Space Ghost number 10. I told you I got a fat stack next week. Like you, Ultimate Black Panther and Ultimate Wolverine, obviously, which I want to say very quickly. We don't got to discuss it, but I do not understand the hate that Ultimate Black Panther number 12 got. I thought it was great, so I don't understand that. Uncanny number 10, and then it's on my list, but I actually took something off my list last week, Damon. I know.
What was it?
Guess. Let me give you a guess.
Wonder Woman.
Yes, it was. It was. Unfortunately, Wonder Woman did not make the cut this week. I'm too far behind.
Yeah.
I was already kind of lull on it before I got behind. So I had to make the sacrifice. Once I catch up on the like 10 issues that I'm behind on that I have here, maybe that'll change, but sacrifices had to be made. And Cap. I don't think Cap's coming out next week, but I dropped Cap too.
I've unfortunately not heard good things about this recent Captain America arc run, which is unfortunate to say the least. All right. I was going to ask maybe hopes and thoughts for Cat 4 from you, but by the time this episode comes out, you'll hear our full reactions, or at least my full reactions from it, within 11:30 p.m. Eastern live show tonight. Which we'll see how tired I look by the time this comes out. Very, very, very late. Apologies to everyone in this household for hearing my voice that late into the evening. Anywhoozin, that'll do it for this issue of the Comic Corner. As always, please go support and look out for your local comic shops, ladies and gentlemen. And until next time.